Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, cinco, seis.
The aim of a research program, my dear Hogan, is not to find out new information. We already know that empathy as a set sucks. It's been outclassed by nature, by dark affinity, by even electrical affinity for years. It's not that you can do anything with it, it's just a junky set.
I couldn't resist. I'm already in archive, and this is a build theory because I'm looking at addressing a one of the most useless sets perpetrated by the original developers of Paragon and overcoming some of the massive damage inflicted on City of Heroes by developers who were told not to do it but did it anyways. Now, if you don't know what's going on, I've covered this in previous streams, specifically that were on YouTube, and essentially the Homecoming developers uh, decided that they were going to change the taunt system or the aggro system so that more enemies would be aggroed to a player than before. Now, this is among many changes that the Homecoming developers made with no knowledge of the game's history. They did not research on the Paragon Wiki archive, they did not look through previous patch notes, they did not talk to any former developers beforehand, they didn't talk to any technical support beforehand, they didn't even talk to any of the transgaming testers that they knew were already providing feedback and telling them this won't work. Now, because of these decisions, what Homecoming actually did is very simple. Homecoming removed the concept of an upper damage limit. What this now means is that in any build of City of Heroes that is based on the Homecoming changes, now has no limit to the amount of damage that enemies can inflict on the player. Because there is now no limit to the amount of damage that can be inflicted on the player, there is also no limit to the amount of debuffs that can be inflicted upon the player. Now, in a saturated mob environment where there are more enemies on screen than the player can plausibly defeat within cycles of attacks, this means that there is no way for a player or group of players to survive. This has been destructive in things like the ITF Valley, the Barracuda final fight against Reichsman, the Hamadan fight, and some other locations where there are significant amounts of enemies that can overwhelm the player's ability to defeat those enemies first. I'm thinking of a couple of Incarnate Trials right there. Alright, so if the mechanisms are broken at a fundamental level, how do you combat this? How do you get around this? Well, one of the among really dumb things that Homecoming said is that the game is no longer based around single origin enhancements, and they said, and some of the changes that they rolled back, implementing what cannot be used where and when. Again, I've addressed this in previous streams. I'm retreading old ground for the sake of explaining what I'm doing now. And the theory right now that I'm working with is that empathy has a couple of powers that are can be autoed, and you can pick up a support set that can also has a permanent toggle. The idea then is that there are a lot of players who have empathy characters. Empathy, as I said, is outclassed by pretty much every other support set. Even Trick Arrow is arguably more effective as a support set than Empathy at this point. And part of that is because when Empathy was set up, it shows its age. It was created in an era where there was no aggro cap, there was no cap on limit powers, and balancing was primarily done by feel. And understanding that some of the changes that were implemented later on, the purple patch, the aggro cap, were done to make the game accessible not just for teams of players getting together who could arrange or who were going to arrange their sets to complement each other, what uh, Cryptic found out the hard way is that teams weren't doing that. Teams were just making whatever they wanted to play, and very often this means that the majority of your teams in flight would not have appropriate powers to complement other players in the team. And when you're dealing with that situation, you've got to start putting limits on it, on what the enemies can inflict, on what the player can endure, and on also what the player can inflict back. And then you have different methods of balancing the game. And again, I'm going into basic mechanics here. On the single player level, the beginning player, just one player by themselves, the enemies have to scale down where where the balance can be achieved on what the player can plausibly afford going through the game, and that is single origin enhancements. But even then, in the first stages of the game, in the first couple of years, there was no plausible way to build a character with single origin enhancements while you were leveling up. The return on influence just wasn't there. And that brings us back to over the years, the live developers, that being Cryptic and Paragon, made several changes to rein things in, to establish limits, to try and balance versus what teams could go up against at the higher levels and what players could effectively fend off on their own. And this scaling, how many bosses you get, how many lieutenants you get, how many characters show up with the buffs, how many characters show up with alpha strike attacks. All of these factors vectored in, and you have a range of mob damage that can be calculated for, and you also have a hard limit set. Some aspects of a character have a hard limit. You cannot improve a character over this much in order to balance the game. So from the start, from about issue 5 onwards, from the purple patch onwards, Cryptic was really balancing across a wide range of what players could do with player synchronicity. And they were also balancing against hard limits. How far can you press this player? How far can you press this character? And if they remove some of these limits, they now have more. They now break the hard cap limits, and they also break the soft cap limits. How much power is effective until you're at the point of diminishing returns, where the system mechanics now mean you can't improve this power anymore. You're at the limit of the mechanics. Homecoming broke that, and so far Homecoming has refused to roll this back. And again, circling back around to empathy. Empathy is one of the power sets that really sucks, and it sucks because it carries over the issue zero mentality that an empath the empath powers cannot be made self-perma, or at least recovery aura, regeneration aura cannot be made self-perma. There is no way, even at a recharge cap, to make these powers permanent for the player. Or at least there is no plausible way to reach a high enough recharge where you would be effectively soft capped to the point of having recovery aura and regeneration aura permanent. I know there's a couple of builds that throw every single recharge power in recharge set available, and they get very close, but I don't think they're quite there. And if you do that, you leave every other power unaddressed. Really hate those builds, because if you just focused on that one where you just have enough recharge that you can perma these powers, you're probably not going to be able to put anything useful into the rest of the items that you're using. I hope that made sense. All right. So what's going on then? Okay, and another issues is fortitude can only be cast on another player. Adrenaline boost can only be cast on another player. Clear mind can only be cast on another player. Heal other only on another player. Absorb pain only on another player. So the majority of powers in empathy have no benefit back to the caster at all. They're only for another player. So you've only wind up with healing R, recovery R, and regeneration R that affect the player. Two of those cannot be made perma. And if you throw a healing aura on auto, you probably will be out of endurance in a significant, in a less, you'll be out of endurance very quickly if you throw healing aura on auto to try and live. So building up other aspects of making a build, you want to achieve some survivability without having to rely on the one power that can be autoed in order to live. And that brings us to what I'm looking at now, or at least one of the builds that I'm looking at now. And uh, what I'm going to try and do is this is entirely a concept build. This is intended to make an empath that can perma adrenaline boost on another player and drop um, the sorcery, as I try to remember what it's called without looking at it, Spirit Ward, and drop Spirit Ward on a player. And theoretically, this should allow almost any build that is even remotely capable that before the mechanics were broken could survive a +4 x8 encounter to once again survive an +4 x8 encounter. Now, I'm not actually doing that right now because now I'm playing around with another theory. I've got a highly built character, Omega Z1, who is a radiation bio tank or a bio radiation tank, and seeing if just with Spirit Ward and Fortitude, and these powers are completely unslotted right now, as I bring that up to show that. These powers are completely unslotted, nothing in there, and as we just kind of witnessed in the background, Omega Z1 was able to fend off a +4 x8 fire farm with debuffs and live through a junction fight. Now, technically, this is a limited junction fight. This is not an open area junction fight. When I forced an open area junction fight earlier, I had to tag in and pull off a regeneration power on Omega Z1. Now, to be fair, if the empath powers were slotted, I may perhaps wouldn't have had to have gone in and done that. But that is just the working theory that I can potentially use empathy to make to shore up a single character who used to be able to do uh, st- uh, these kinds of mega oversaturated fights before, and put them in a position where they can do that mega oversaturated fight again. And part of this is delivering enough damage to defeat the enemies before they deliver enough damage to overwhelm the player or deliver enough debuffs to overwhelm the player. So there is kind of a balancing act here. I'm not going for just survivability by using fortitude. I'm upping the damage applied. So I'm not sure if this approach will work for all characters. I think for something like Super Reflex, it's going to have to be adrenaline boost and regeneration. But that's something I'll test later. The uh, I can test the Biorad right now. So that's what I've got. That's what I've really got on screen. What's going on is this build was specifically created to be fast enough to perma adrenaline boost. And I went with a set that I was very comfortable with, knowing that it would have some of the powers I would be, or some of the sets I would be looking for, specifically a PPAOE, and I got that in Halo Bullets. Now the question is, since this build is working in concept unslotted, okay, not against a highly optimized character to begin with, I haven't. I think I'm going to have to fill this out with slop before I can try an unoptimized character or a character that was at the extreme edge to see whether or not this could work uh, with the regeneration on adrenaline boost. But if this works, then I can provide other players with a framework on how, if they're dual boxing, they can passive farm a fire farm map again. Now, why is passive farming important? Well, for smaller servers, that is where you do not have a constant population of players incoming to the game or running missions or putting items on the auction house for other players to buy, your vast resources of items, salvage, enhancements, those come from the passive farmers, from the players who don't have 2 or 3 hours a day to just get in game and run a task force, who don't have the time to aggressively run a farm with other players, the players who are coming in at odd hours. And again, this is going back to things that Cryptic and Paragon learned the hard way. Cryptic and Paragon have no control over when players are in the game. Cryptic and Paragon could not schedule events around when players would be available because players are people. They have jobs, they have things to do, they have chores, they have tech, they have bills to pay. They're not going to be in the game constantly, and their play schedules may not be set. So, forcing team play, forcing high population play, forcing events that can only be done when you have multiple players did not work. And this is one of the things that Cryptic had several issues coming to terms with this, and arguably the lead developer, Matt Miller, going into Paragon, he had even greater issues with this because his whole idea for the incarnate system was he was going to use incarnates to eliminate archetypes, to eliminate the archetypal differences, where every player's character would be capable of doing everything that another player could do if they were deep enough into the incarnate system. And the idea behind that is Matt Miller was trying to solve the problem of we have these limited players. We have this game is not working on a full we always have a large population. How do we fix a large population? So rather than just accepting that okay, it's fine to have players who are very strong in one area and maybe not so strong in another, maybe it's okay to have dual boxers. Why don't we just work around, planning some of these encounters on two players where one of them can just be a passive support player? There's other different ways to go around solving the population problems, and I don't know why Matt Miller wasn't willing to consider those. Maybe he thought the one character does everything approach was the best way. I'm not so sure it was because that if every character plays the same, why play the game at all? Why have a different experience? Uh, anyway, so I realize I keep tangenting off because I'm trying to explain what's going on here, why this build is like it is, what it's intended to accomplish, and why this is important. More specifically, also how Homecoming broke it and why not rolling those changes back and going, okay, apologizing on the front play. You know what? Screwed up. Somebody told us before we even published this was a bad idea. It wasn't going to work like that. That and they provided us with lots of alternative solutions and we rejected them and we decided to implement this and okay, we screwed all of you over. Until Homecoming comes out and just says that on their front page, I'm not going to stop slagging on them. It's just that simple. They screwed up, they need to admit it, and they need to roll the changes back. Until that happens, though, I can try to find plausible solutions for other players. Well, I think this is the longest open rant I've had that's not specifically about the opening rant. So, what I'm going to try to do now, and forgive me, I'm working with Windows 11 and some of the UI changes are annoying. Anyways, what I'm going to try and do now is since I have an idea that this build works. Now, this build, as it goes into the builder, is not how it can actually be implemented in game because there were some changes made to when you can get powers that may not be fully represented in Mid-Zero Reborn. Uh, but what I'm going to try and do is I had a friend who uh, I think I want to swap these windows. Okay, that's the one that's in the back. So that's my reference build. I had a friend who ran an archery, an empath archery build. So I'm going to try import my empathy dual pistols build into an empathy archery build. And let's see, what did we drop? We dropped a Bullet Rain, which was an ATO set. We dropped a PBOE, which is just a recharge. We dropped a slow, which is just a recharge. Okay, we dropped two slows, which were just recharges. So I'm missing 2 recharges, an ATO, and high recharge. Alright, so aim, we can go ahead and pull slots from aim. And for that set, we're just going to do a Gaussian build-up. Now, rain of arrows. We're already using Ragnarok. Do I have any purples that I can leverage? Alright, I've got a damage now on stunning shot. I want to replace stunning shot with explosive arrow. Alright, so now I need 2 ATOs. Alright, oops. I took out range shot instead of stunning shot. Okay, where have you gone from? Okay, I got stun shot, range shot. Okay, same thing. I'm missing 2 slow. I'm missing 2 recharge. I'm missing 3 recharges and an ATO. I'm now actually missing both of the ATOs. So range shot, we have chance for PBO heal or chance for absorb. Okay, what I'm thinking, I have 5 slots to go, so we'll do slots. Auto range all slots. It'll free me up slot to put on Fistful of Arrows. And we'll do Fistful of Arrows as the heal. And we'll do... See, the thing is, I know I want to mitigate the knock on Explosive Arrow. So I've got either range shot or rain of arrows, or I can do snapshot as... Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is I had snapshot was picking up apocalypse for the damage proc, but since range shot is our snipe, that probably is going to be the place where we want to add in the most damage. So we're going to do our apocalypse on range shot. Alright, and then snapshot is going to get our absorb. And that leaves us just with explosive arrow and rain of arrows. So we're still missing a high recharge, and we are missing a low recharge. Let's check out and see what adrenaline boost is doing right now. So we'll lock adrenaline boost off. Alright, let's turn off agility radial. Alright, adrenaline boost right now is actually still into perma state. Hasten is not quite in a perma state, so we can pick up some more recharge. If we can, let's turn hasten off and check adrenaline boost again. Alright, so we do need hasten own for adrenaline boost to be perma at lower levels. Because right now, most of my recharge is built up in ATOs or high recharge. Because it's built up in snapshot, which is ATO. Fistful of Arrows, which is ATO. Oh, wait. Okay, yeah, there it is. Now, I could break this apart and do 2 Superior Vigilante Assault, but I don't think I have to. Oh, we don't have any slots in Blazing Arrow. We can do 4 slots in there. And we're already using Apocalypse for the fast recharge. Alright, explosive arrow, I can do. I've got 6 slots on the explosive arrow, and if I do sudden acceleration, we'll do these as uh, catalyzed, or doesn't maximize anything, but now we pick up some more recharge and we mitigate the knock. Let's check hasten. Hasten is almost there, so a little bit more recharge. Alright, so we've got Rain of Arrows and we've got Blazing Arrow to work with. Rain of Arrows is a TAOE. For recharge, I could either do Bombardment or Posse's Blast. What I'm thinking is, do I really need that accuracy recharge, damage buff, and defense, but I'm not really going anywhere on Fire Cold or AoE defense. I'm kind of short on smashing lethal, but that's okay, because I don't have agility turned on. Alright, so what I'm thinking is taking the slots from Snapshot. Slots, auto-arrange all slots. And we'll do... I want endurance for this. So what I'm thinking is first, second, and proc. Okay, so let's go for you. Alright, since I worked from the forwards. Okay, let's work snapshot like this. Let's work snapshot like proc. Quad. And then accuracy, damage, endurance. So bottom three. Actually, we'll go with bottom three. That really doesn't maximize us on anything, but that does keep our endurance discount. Alright, let's change the quad to there. Alright, we're doing a little bit of better on damage. But at this, because it's a defender, no matter if you're doing snapshot. In game, you can do aimed shot, but mids won't let me um, place that as aim shot, at least not in this build. There is a new build, but the update function isn't working again. Okay, that brings us Blazing Arrow, could have 6, Rain of Arrows. Alright, what I'm thinking is, because I can get some range out of Bombardment. And range for all powers is probably going to be a good boost for just 3 slots. So what I'm thinking is ATO, first 3. Whoops, I've already got that one going. Okay, okay, no, sorry. Quad. Alright, I'm doing okay on damage. Let's do Bombardment, chance for fire damage. And we'll do accuracy, damage, recharge. Alright, one sec. Okay, we're now red cap on damage. We're not doing so great on endurance. Now, at our recharge, endurance may not matter because of recovery aura. So what I'm thinking is accuracy, recharge, endurance. This now gets us a... recharge is ludicrously low at 3.13 seconds. I'm sorry. Sorry, I somehow clicked on range shot. Okay, we're at 15. We're under 16 seconds. What are we at on hasten? We are actually at perma hasten without uh there's two things. This is plussed all the way up. So can I add some more recharge time? Alright, I've already used, I could do intricate chaos or decimation to add some more recharge time. Inflame is just that. I don't have any other alternative sets I can really play around with other than the sniper set. I could go Sting of the Manticore with 5 slots. Um, let's see what that looks like on damage. With this proc up, range shot is giving us 670 average calculated damage with that proc in place. So let's change this to Sting of the Manticore, and now we want to take every single, and I kind of don't like doing this way because this now places maximum recharge at a very high level and not necessarily at a lower level. This isn't going to be this is not going to easily scale up and down. And right now most of my recharge is tied up in scaling. I only have one power. Let's take this one out for a second. So we're no longer clocking the recharge boost here. And now check our totals. Hasten is actually still at perma, and that's with ATO recharge, PvP recharge, um, purple recharge, luck of the gambler, scaling, PvP recharge, catalyzed recharge, PvP recharge, purple recharge, um, ATO recharge, scaling. So we're actually at perma hasten with uh and let's do set some bonuses check. I am capped. What am I capped on? I'm capped on regeneration. I'm not actually capped on recharge. Okay. So we do have a little bit of leeway built in. So recovery aura. I could go with power transfer rather than synapses shock at this point. Or I could go with preemptive optimization because I don't need that 6.25% recharge time. So if I take a slot from recovery aura and do preemptive optimization, and we'll just do catalyzed on preemptive optimization because we're now at recharge. We're now at perma hasten, so perma adrenaline boost. All right, endurance is capped. Recharge is not quite capped, but our recharge is 133.1 seconds out of a recharge of 500. Our endurance return is capped. Okay, so recovery aura, I'm okay with I'm okay with this. And hasten is once again is fallen little, so that just leaves us with 5 slots on blazing arrow. Now we've already used up apocalypse. We're not close on range damage, so going a 5 slot. I'm kind of tempted to go a 5 slot Winter's Bite, although it doesn't bring any damage to us. It does bring that debuff on the chance for speed minus recharge. And it does give me scaling up and down. And if I do superior, we'll do accuracy, damage. We've kept our accuracy, we've kept our damage, our recharge time, and well, at 2.81 seconds, we've got decent recharge going on. All right. And 80 seconds out of 90 seconds with hasten up, with hasten down, we're still over. So you still have perma adrenaline boost with hasten up. All right, let's turn hasten off and turn on agility and see where we're at. So this is level 50. Uh, we're now at adrenaline boost is almost perma, just a second off with agility radial paragon. And we are soft capped to smashing lethal energy. Not quite there on ranged, but that's okay. Recovery aura is now at, well, it's at 150 seconds. Passive. Regeneration aura is also 150 seconds passive. Now that's interesting. Now this is all the way plussed. This is not plussed, and they're within a second of recharging with each other. Let's turn hasten back on and just look at our camp numbers. All right, recovery R is at 124.5. Regeneration is R at 1. They're still within a second of each other. They're still within 0.1 seconds of each other. Okay, I'm actually kind of happy with that. Now, this isn't a whole lot of damage on target, but this should be an appreciable build. Healing Aura picks up the regeneration recovery proc and healing aura. So every time you tap healing aura, I'm not sure if this will actually go out to the other players or not. Absorb pain is picking up the chance for absorb proc. We're in flight mode. Inflame helps us bring down some extra damage onto our teammates or the pets. This is actually incredibly useful for, say, mothership raids. Also useful for Reichsman fight, ITF. It's actually useful in a lot of places. Okay, so we're going to lock this one off. This is a Doc Holiday Archery sorcery build. Save as dual pistols, defender, empathy, archery, sorcery concept 01. Okay, now to intentionally mess things up, we'll bring back this build over in this window. Alright, defender, empathy, archery, sorcery concept 01. Alright, now we're going to take out flight. We're going to take out stealth. And now we're going to pick up jumping. And we're going to pick up experimentation. Alright, we're going to pick up speed of sound, experimental injection, corrosive vial, combat jumping. We're actually going to swap some of these around. Alright, experimental injection. We can do the PvP proc, or well, for right now, we'll just do the PvP proc again. Or rather, we'll do the PvP set. Because this is a click, I'm not going to worry about the PvP proc in here. Alright, corrosive vial can also inherit a Ragnarok. Speed of sound can inherit our Blessing of the Zephyr, and combat jumping can inherit our setting some stealth. Alright, now let's check our totals. We still have the same exact slotting. We've now picked up a little bit of debuff with range targeted to AoE and minus defense in corrosive vial. So now this build is not so specific on relying on another player to be present, and does make it easier to, now you have an active debuff that you can throw into the mix. So this is Doc Holiday Archery Experimentation. 1. And we'll lock this off, save as Doc Holiday Archery Experimentation R1. Okay, let's take these out for a second longer. Okay, what other one did I want to do? Force of Will. Okay, so we're setting up with we got Mighty Leap, and then we'll do Weaken Resolve, and we'll do Unleash Potential. So Mighty Leap can inherit our Blessing of the Zephyr. Our Weaken Resolve. We've lost a high recharge. Okay, we've lost a recharge, a second recharge. We've lost 2 recharges. Now we can make up some of this recharge in Cloud Senses. Now because this is a level 30 set, we can pump 4 of these out. Now this picks us up a slot to play with. Now we can pick up a Luck of the Gambler, and what we want to do right now is set some bonuses and check and make sure that we are not over. So we can pick up a 7.5 there, which picks up our PvP recharge. And is there any other recharges that we could pick up? We could do Panacea. We could do take a slot from there, bring Unleash Potential out. What is this? Plus recovery. We could do defense, maybe shield wall and pick up the resist proc, but that doesn't really get us another recharge going back. So I'm looking at Panacea. We're going to take a slot from Weaken Resolve. We're going to put the slot on Unleash Potential. And now we're going to bring back in our Panacea proc, because we can boost this all the way out. Alright. Now this gives us Unleash Potential, has a recharge of 60 seconds, present recharge at the high end of about 150 seconds. They still pick up a debuff on the other targets, what we can resolve, or at least one target. And we do have an O Kitty Litter power. Now, if you've already got Regeneration Aura and Adrenaline Boost going, or I'm sorry, Regeneration Aura and Recovery, if you got Regeneration Aura going, actually we'll do Windows, Advanced Totals. Alright, with Unleash Potential up, Regeneration is presently 500 and 40%. So it's at, well, recovery. That's recovery gen 540. We're currently clocking 32 HP per second with unleashed potential up. With regeneration aura up, we're now at health regenerated per second 6.46%, 93.61 HP per second. Yeah, that's a lot of regen to be clocking back in. And it is up a bit from 75 HP per second. Okay. So that's a potential build as well if you're just trying to live. All right, save as willpower. Willpower concept 01. Excuse me. Guess it's time to go take another antihistamine. Okay, so we're dropping out. Mighty Leap. We can resolve. Okay, let's go with flight. And we'll take out combat jumping for a second. So if we're going with flight, we can do hover, fly, evasive maneuvers, and maybe Spirit Ward. Alright, hover can inherit our slotting from combat jumping. Evasive maneuvers. Alright, we can either do the flight set, which is flying, endurance flying, but nothing really special in there. Alright, we could do Freebird and 3 slots, or we could pick up Spirit Ward. We'll go ahead and clock in. Gives us slots there. In that brief moment when he realized that in all of the moving stuff around, you stopped picking up the Kismet proc. So now I gotta go back and fit in the Kismet proc. I'm leaning towards flying, increase protection, keep you getting from knocked out of the air. Alright, no slots left. So there's what a fly would look like. Now that's assuming that in game you can take Spirit Ward and still take the fly power pool. Alright, so now we've got to go back. Defender, Corruptor. Defender. Experimentation. Yeah, I don't have a... I somehow don't have Kismet in here. Wow, really me? Okay. The easiest way to do this would actually be to go back to Recovery Aura and do Synapses Shock. Take the slot from recovery aura, put it on combat jumping, and there we've got our Kismet. And now finish up with, since we already know that we're over on this, uh, we want to go for all of our recharge powers. Except for in mod. So where's this? Alright, that still maximizes our recharge, picks us up for Kismet. Alright, let's now go back and do, that was experimentation. Sorcery. The best place to put, two places to put the Kismet proc here. We can either do stealth, or we can do weave. Now, I'm kind of leaning towards having it in stealth. So we'll do the same thing. We'll swap, we'll put the Kismet in stealth, and we'll come back to recovery aura. I forgot, since this is everything else, now we'll leave this as a catalyzed. And again, we'll pick up all of the recharges for maximum scaling. Okay. Save. And now that means we just have empathy, archery, willpower. Okay, the willpower to do. Alright, again, we'll make the same change. We'll put the Kismet back on combat jumping. And now we'll swap you over. I know, I could just have left preemptive optimization there and kept that recharge time. That's another valid approach if you're going scaling. Drop the accuracy recharge and just keep all of the in mods for scaling up and down. You'll still pick up plenty of. Actually, just so you can see what that would look like. We're dropping the accuracy recharge. We're not red capped on recharge. But right now we're at recovery aura 128 seconds. And regeneration aura 123 seconds. Alright, let's go ahead and do the cap up then. Oh, oops. With all the recharges boosted. And then we're at 1227. We just go ahead and boost it 1227. So we're pretty much at the same, all things considered, at the top end. Alright. Now save this one. Do I want to do super jump or super speed? Not particularly. But, okay, we'll drop. And we'll pick up super speed. Oh, what did I just click? Oh, I clicked off of hasten. Alright, we'll pick up super speed. Now, if you do super speed, I would actually go experimentation, experimental injection. Now, you need 3 down to get the corrosive vial, and there's not enough slots left. You still need to keep combat jumping. You could do toxic dart. Is there anything else that you could pick up for super speed? Whirlwind's not really useful. Yeah, that's just it. Super speed doesn't actually get you very far. There's not really a whole lot of other sets you could yank from. Uh, really don't need mess. Could do presence. If you go sorcery, you could do spirit ward and arcane bolt to pick up another single target attack. So no, I really don't see a way to go deep enough taking super speed and keeping the rest of the slots in. So there you go. There's a bunch of different ways on how to uh, potentially upend archery. And okay, there's a fair enough question to be asked. Why did I do archery other than just uh, another a player that I knew had an archery fire? I had an archery empathy build, and it just I had archery fire, they had archery empathy. And just for reference, here's what the dual builds, the empathy dual pistols experimentation looked like. And while I'm thinking about it, can I? Part of this was taking adrenal booster because dual pistols does not pick up a damage booster, so taking adrenal booster gives me a way to alpha strike, um, at least on a mob, not every mob, but at least a mob. And you can see I did include corrosive vial is not entirely slotted out like it is in other builds, but this is specific to dual pistols. Anyways, why didn't I do any of the other sets? Because for most of the other sets, aside from Radiation Blast, they're all going to have slotting options pretty close to Archery. So Archery is kind of, you can easily port from Archery to almost any other attack set. So by doing Archery, really do that should free up the rest of the uh, rest of the builds for porting. And we are approaching an hour, so I'm going to cut it off here, and I'll catch you later.